Welcome to the Living Centred podcast, a podcast all about learning together how to live lives which are centred on Jesus. Everyone lives centred on something. Our goal is to learn together how every area of our lives, everything about who we are and how we live, can be increasingly oriented around Jesus and transformed by Jesus. He invites us to a rich and satisfying life, where the good news that he truly is enough changes everything about how we relate to God, ourselves, and the world. In each episode, a different person shares about what it's looking like for them to seek to centre their life on Jesus right now. As we hear their stories, we get to learn together and to encourage one another in what it means for Jesus to be at the centre of our lives. This is a journey we are all invited to, and a conversation we all get to be a part of. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name is Adrian, and it is so good to welcome you to this week's episode of the Living Centred podcast. And it's my privilege to introduce today John, who's going to be sharing. John, it is very good to see you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Nice to see you too.
Well, I'm going to get you straight in there with the first question, which is, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your life looks like at this point in time?
Well, as we've established, I'm John.
Yep.
I've been married to the lovely Sarah for over 26 years.
Amazing.
And we've got 3 lovely adult kids, 2 of which have left home, and we've been part of the Oasis family for 23 and a half years this year.
No way. Yeah. That's amazing.
As I was preparing this, I sat back and thought, wow, we've only been married 2.5 years before we came here.
That's crazy.
I hadn't realised that. It had never dawned on me. I spent nearly 28 years working with some of the most vulnerable people in our society. We're suffering with homelessness, addiction issues, various levels of mental health troubles, including trauma from past abuse, which 20 of those years I spent doing for Oasis, as you know, up to about 3 years ago, come January next year. Wow. Time flies, that's 3 years.
It really does.
Through the last 10 years of those, we also had gone through some personal family battles, including almost losing our then 13-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
2 infections on the brain, as well as Sarah walking through a battle with cancer. And although that work had been extremely rewarding, it also came at a cost, along with our own personal battles we'd been through. And so when it came to end for Oasis, I was mentally, spiritually, physically exhausted, needing time to recover, including seeing a therapist. But also I needed to do something completely different, which brings me to today, is I've started driving as a tray plate car delivery driver, taking cars all over the UK. It's developed into being trained and given a role as a transport driver, and I now drive a 12-ton, 54-foot-long truck and trailer.
That's amazing.
So different.
It is amazing. I think, obviously, I've had the privilege of doing this journey with you. It really is. And I'm deeply, deeply thankful for everything that you gave, the way in which it cost you, which I know it did. And there's many, many unseen costs that I don't understand or haven't seen. But I'm deeply grateful for you, deeply grateful for the impact you have on my life and just the way you live your life. And also just been amazing to see how you've emerged after the last 3 years. It's just been, a privilege to see. And I guess to jump then in to within that view of just what life looks like at this point in time, which has been shaped by something of what life has looked like over the past, is what does living centered on Jesus look like for you right now?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I knew that I needed to do something completely different in my day-to-day work life, hence the driving job. And when my role at Oasis came to an end, but I had this sort of internal battle going on after spending so many years giving my life to something purposeful.
Yeah.
With nearly 3 decades, which I say it like that, I think, am I that old? But I obviously am.
We are getting that old, John. We are getting that old.
We are. I sort of felt like I was cheating and doing nothing worthwhile while doing the driving job. Even though I felt so spent, I knew I had nothing else to give at that moment in time. And I found myself saying this to God, feeling that by doing what I was doing was now pointless compared to what I did before. But I found there was 2 things came out of that. Number 1, in driving on my own for many hours per day, it gave me an opportunity to try and become more aware and mindful of God in every moment.
Wow.
There's a book that I read by Brother Lawrence called Practicing the Presence of God, where he practiced being aware of God even while doing the dishes. And I found the driving job gave me room to start doing this, as my mind was not throwing around so many things like I'd done in my previous vacation. It made me so much more sensitive to the things God was wanting to do and say to me, without the clutter of all I was carrying before getting in the way.
Wow.
I never knew it was cluttering me until it was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
It brings me to the second thing, right to this moment in time. When I asked God how I could display him when I started driving for the company around 2.5 years ago, he said that I was to be a person of lightness, encouragement and kindness.
Wow.
Now, I'm quite a meaty kind of guy, and I said to God, is that it? That's rubbish. It's not quite how you should talk to God, really, is it? But I started to do it anyway. And the results I found were way more powerful than I could ever imagine.
Wow.
At the time, I was a self-employed contractor with the company. Never saw more than 3 or 4 of all the staff ever in the year that I was particularly doing that role. As most contact was via phones. And all I would do is start conversations by asking them how they were and how their day was going.
Wow.
I found that after a while, people would start talking to me about their own personal stuff. Then opportunities to be given further responsibility would open up, despite being a faceless contractor to them. And as the 3 directors soon became to know who I was, and they gave me more responsibility with that too.
Wow.
After 10 months, they asked me to head up looking after a team of agency workers.
Amazing.
And during that time, the idea is that they gave me a company car for about a month. It was a brand new Audi.
Amazing.
And I was a contractor. I wasn't a staff member. I was a contractor, self-employed. And they gave me this car and had me organised to get some work catch up they were behind on.
Yeah.
And it all started just by being kind, encouraging, and a person of lightness. And it just meant they just seemed to just end up trusting me and relating to me.
Wow.
In ways that I never thought would be possible.
Oh, it's amazing, John. I just love that. I've loved the starting point of saying this latest phase has felt so different to how I've done life before. And just think, does this matter, God? Are you in this? And then God then revealing just his value through it, of his value of you.
Yeah.
Of just you getting to see God attentively present within you, present around environments, revealing things that he's wanting to do in and through you. And then out of it, then that sense of then, well, okay, I'll be obedient, but what do you want us to do? And it's like, what do you say? Lightness, kindness.
Be.
Yeah, be.
Be lightness, encouragement and positivity.
Yeah. And I just think, isn't that amazing? You're like, is that it? And then realizing, wow, this is the most profound thing I can be. And just doors have just opened left, right, and center.
Just from that.
Oh, it's amazing.
Just from that.
I guess then the next question leads in very well, which is then what helps you live that way?
So, learn to be more focused on being than doing. That's what it taught me. Because ultimately what came from that is I then got led to being offered 18 months ago the employment role where they're trying me to do the trucks. It all carried me. It led from one thing to the other.
Wow.
And after just 3 months of doing that, they were asking me to train up new members of staff coming onto the team.
Wow.
And asking my perspective about when I thought they were the right people for the job.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Like, what? It's made me rethink about the being rather than doing.
Yeah.
And realise, actually, Jesus calls me to be salt and light. He calls us all to be salt and light. Although that will affect what we do at different points, I think I'm starting to realise it's the being that matters more to him than what I do. And I can actually do this anywhere and with anyone I meet from all walks of life.
Wow.
For me, that was huge. That was a massive revelation.
Yeah,
because it suddenly meant I wasn't cheating my current work role and starving from anything that matters. Because I'm still a follower and ambassador of Jesus.
Yeah.
Called to display him with all I meet. It doesn't matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I still have to be that.
Yeah.
And suddenly, nothing I do is pointless.
That's amazing.
And that's a radical shift in my thinking. And you know me. You know me very well for 23 and a half years. I have very much always been a person thinking about doing.
Yeah.
And felt pressure to, I must do.
Yeah.
And that's the shift. Hang on. Maybe that doesn't matter quite as much. Wow. It does, but it doesn't at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's about, who am I?
Oh, it's beautiful, John. What I love about it as you share it is this reality of, as you understanding more of who you just to be, is without you knowing it, the being leads to the doing.
Yes.
It just flows out. It's not even a conscious thing. It's not like, oh yeah, what must I do now? It just comes out because you're being like who you're created to be.
Yeah.
Living in the good of it. Oh, amazing.
So I think what other helps us out, but I think also this time I've been on my own many times today. I've been able to listen to scripture, podcasts and worship. And it's all been a complete gift in my restoration and healing process.
Wow.
Again, not cheating my way out of it. I mean, God recently said to me, well, I still thought it was my idea to just do something different. He said, John, the whole driving thing was never your idea. It was all part of my plan. It wasn't you just trying to escape.
Wow.
Really? I just thought God was being gracious all that time.
Wow.
It completely threw me. I think the other thing that helps, I get to see so much of the country, as I've already said, with travelling, and God's beautiful creation that I would never have seen before. And in doing this, something I've realised that God reveals so much of himself in his creation. Romans talks about how his eternal power and nature have been revealed through what has been made.
Yeah.
And I've been able to see so much evidence of that.
It's really good.
I think there's just a couple more things I think.
No, yeah, great.
Is keeping the friends around me and staying in contact with them. Even if I can't see them very often because I'm always all over the place.
Yeah, you are
physically.
all over the place. Yeah.
Keeping people around us who we're all good for each other and encourage each other, challenge each other on our walk with God, and also just to hang out and have fun with as we do life together.
Yeah.
And I think finally, similar to what I've already covered before a bit, but giving myself those moments to pause and rest when reflect where need be. I've not been good at this at all in the past, as you would well know. The good thing about this, Adrian, if I said different, you could keep me accountable because you know me. And I'm still a work in progress, but I'm trying to be less hard on myself.
Wow.
And find the space to be and not feel the pressure to do in the same way as before.
That's really good, John. Oh, it's just really beautiful. Knowing some of your journey, I just think it is amazing to see what God has done in the most surprising way. And I love that you thought this was your idea? Oh no, this is always my plan. And I've used it. And I love it of how you've discovered just being, of just reality of the solitude and what God wants to do in that place, of just him and you. The way in which you've then seen the fact, and you do go around the country. When you send me a map of everywhere you've been, I'm like, really? In the last week? And just that way God's used that, though, to reveal more of his creation and therefore more of him. Oh, it's just beautiful. And then just that need, though, that, the solitude's there, but I still need people. I need people to challenge and encourage me. And then that last thing of just what I'm learning, to pause and rest. And that's good. I guess within all of that, what are you discovering then about who God is as Father, Son, and Spirit?
I'm discovering that he is more loving than I could ever imagined, more gracious and compassionate than I ever realised, and more patient than I thought he was. And I'm completely safe in his hands. And there's been numerous examples of how that can look.
Yeah.
Whether it's in a physical, practical sense, of the potential near misses I had on them. With tyres flying off at 60 miles an hour and things, with trailers on the back, and everything was just calm and peaceful and all came to a complete standstill and nothing happened. And he's just so, so great. Just aware of that in so many different ways. That he's forever interested in the small details of my life. There's nothing that doesn't matter.
Amazing.
And nothing is irrelevant.
Wow.
But yet that also, in all these things, he's also so invested in me and that he wants to make me more like him than letting me stay as I am.
It's just really good, John.
I try to summarise this stuff as I've been doing this, and I'm thinking, wow.
It's so amazing. I've just, who is God? I've discovered he's way more loving, gracious, and patient than I ever give him credit for. And out of that, I'm understanding he's interested in the very smallest details of my life. And I love that thing at the end, which I don't know if you're listening to this, and maybe you need to hear it, that God is really, really invested in you, just as he is with John. Because he's invested in you because he wants you to become more like him. It's just beautiful. Man, this is good, John. Go on then. How are you changing? I can already see it, but come on. How are you changing? If we to have met you 3, 6, 12 months ago, how would John today look different to John then?
Well, in Psalm 139, a well-known psalm, is David writes at the end, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. And see if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." A few months ago when I read this, I had one of those crazy moments, really, that you sort of say it in faith and think, what the heck have I asked God that for? I just said, God, show me if there's anything in me that is offensive to you, and change it in me. Can I just say, before I prayed that prayer, I used to think I was quite a nice bloke. But then for a period of time, every time I had a thought or reaction or feeling to different situations I came across, God would highlight things in my heart that were so deep I never knew they were there.
Wow.
And they caused me to behave in the way that I did at different points.
Yeah.
And I suddenly became aware of my depravity before him, and that I thought I knew, but had no idea of the depths about before then. Two things I realised through this. That number one, just how much and why Jesus had to die for my sins. That it was not about my actions alone and my thoughts alone, but the heart that caused me to do and be those things.
Yeah.
That's why he had to die for me.
Yeah.
And then rose again in a way that I had never quite grasped before.
Mm-hmm.
That hidden stuff that I didn't know was there. And the motivation behind it. That's in the depths of the heart that he sees.
Yeah.
But then also number two, that he, because of this, it gave a greater understanding that there was no room for any self-righteousness.
Yeah.
As it's all about the grace and compassion of God, and it's all about him. The things I said earlier on that I start to learn is all because of this stuff.
Yeah.
The things I get right or good are no more worthy of my being accepted than the things that I get wrong before him, because it's about the heart. That I'm no better or worse than anyone else, which I needed to hear both sides of that. I'm simply his child who is reached out of heaven to draw close to him.
Yeah.
And the truth is that this is also enough for me in all things. It's like the song we sing, what gift of grace is Jesus my Redeemer. There's no more for heaven now to give. For he's my joy, my righteousness and my freedom. My steadfast love, my deep and boundless peace. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus.
Yeah.
For my love is wholly bound to his. Oh, strange and divine, I can sing, all is mine.
Yeah.
Yet not I, but through Christ in me. My acceptance from him is all that matters. Neither my acceptance or rejection by fellow people or situations that happen. It's all about him and his acceptance of me, as he's already accepted me and done everything to make living life for him possible. And that's all that matters. I'm nowhere near grasping this and what that fully means for my life. But hopefully I'm getting there step by step, and that by moment as I walk life out.
Oh man, John, that's good. It's so good. I can see it. I'm not going to add anything to it. I think it just needs to breathe, and just maybe you need to breathe it in as you're listening to this, of just the wonder and beauty. We're all in need of Jesus, and he comes and offers us everything we've ever needed, and it just undoes it. It suddenly turns a room recording a podcast into the most sacred of spaces, where God comes and is present, already was, but we're just aware of his presence amongst us, and just how good he is, how loving, how gracious, how patient. Like, I know for me, just hearing each other, I just want more and more of my life to be shaped around more and more of him. So, thank you for sharing. As always, my heart is well and truly full. It just is. It just does me so much good doing these conversations. You've undone me a bit, so I'm trying to hold it together.
I'm undone myself.
Yeah, I think for me, out of the stuff you've shared, just that, I think there's two things. One is, I made a note of just, I want to daily just think, how can I just live with lightness, kindness, and be positive or encouraging to others? I want to live with that. And then I want to pray that prayer at Psalm 139 of, God, come examine my heart. Come and just take out the stuff that just gets in the way, as I want more of you. That's what I'm going to be praying this coming week. How about you, my listening friends? What are you going to be contemplating out of the wonder, richness of everything John has so eloquently and openly shared with us? Lastly, I just want to say thank you so much for listening, and just want to give heads up as next week things are going to look different in the podcast, as we're going to be mindful of Christmas is approaching, and we want to just look at how do we live lives then that are centered on Jesus at Christmas. And so we're going to talk a bit about that more next time. But lastly, I just want to pray for each and every one of us, and I pray we would know more of the wonder of living centered on Jesus this coming week. Amen.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Living Centred podcast. New episodes are released every Monday, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe on your chosen podcast provider to receive them direct each week. Living Centred is produced by the team at Oasis Church in Birmingham, UK, and you can find out more and get in touch with the team via theoasischurch.com.